G'day and welcome to the Hunting Connection podcast. My name is Zach Williams and I am your host. Here we'll connect you with hunters, fishers and outdoor enthusiasts from around the globe. This podcast will share hunting and fishing stories, including past experiences, and tackle the tough hunting stereotypes our community faces. We hope to be a positive influence to those outside the community while also having a laugh along the way. Hope you enjoy the podcast. G'day and welcome to another episode of the Hunting Connection podcast. Today's guest is Lanah from Hey Succa and Skulls. Welcome.
Hey, Zach.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Good. We'll jump straight into the questions. Where are you from?
No worries. Thanks for having me. I'm from Sydney and it's pouring down at the moment.
Yeah, we were trying to work out what the background noise was before, and I came to the conclusion it must be the rain in the background. So if you're hearing that when the podcast is live, I couldn't work out how to get that out. So
all learning.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely a process, having to change all the different apps and stuff when they change all their terms and conditions. Like Zoom's gone from like 40-minute free call, like hours free calls to 40-minute free calls. So I've had to change the one I'm using. How old are you?
Oh, I just turned 30 back in March.
Oldie. Nah, jokes.
Yeah, I know. I'm old. You know me. I hate getting older.
It's not too bad. I'm yet to reach the big 3-0 yet. So if I make it that far.
You will. You got a lot of hunting ahead of you.
Yes. So what do you do for work?
So currently I'm a licensed taxidermist. I specialise primarily in entomology, so insects. But yeah, that's my main job. But I also do dog grooming as well. I'm a professional dog groomer, so I've just started picking that up again once a week with a friend and helping her out, and just getting a feel for something I love again. And that's pretty much it. Everything to do with animals. Yeah,
I was just about to say that everything you do evolves around animals.
Yeah.
So how did you get into entomology, taxidermy, and nature preservation?
You did good, entomology, yeah. Look, it's funny because I've always worked in animal care, in commercial, pet food sales, things like that, dog grooming, all that good stuff to keep our household pets healthy and happy. And it sort of just stemmed from there. I never had much of an interest in insects specifically. I used to be scared of moths. Whereas now that I've learned so much, I love them. I run towards them. They run away from me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. It was sort of just like a curiosity, I guess. Like I've always been interested in all sorts of animals and whatever creatures are on our earth, but I never thought I'd end up this sort of deep into it, I guess. But yeah, it was just that curiosity and fascination with all the different animals and different types of things we have.
Yeah, exactly. Your work's awesome, and you deal with a lot of moths.
Thanks, man. Yes, I do.
Speaking of moths and rain before, do you guys get the big rain moths where you are?
No, they're a lot more tropical. So it's like Brisbane, where it's a bit warmer. There's actually the largest moth on Earth is in Brisbane, the Hercules moth. And I believe there is another one. I can't remember the name right now. But, we actually have one of the largest in the world in Brisbane, which is really cool.
When we have
no, here we just get small ones, little ones, nothing really too exciting.
Yeah, it just crossed my mind because down here we get the massive rain moths. And it just crossed my mind that I haven't actually seen you do anything with them yet. I'm like, I was thinking if you got them like we do, that'd be an awesome thing to work with because they're huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I do get same family. I get the Atlas moth, which is the same family as what we've got here. They're like the 3rd or 4th largest in the world. So I do get them, but I don't actually work on Australian species. So that's a bit of a whole different thing.
I bet. There's always the laws and stuff with our native stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So speaking of which, how do you acquire the insects you work with? Being from overseas.
Okay, so Yeah, well, see, a lot of people sort of have this idea that I go out and catch them myself. And honestly, if I saw the types of insects that I do acquire in the wild, I would absolutely not go near them because I wouldn't want to jeopardize their health. You know what I mean? I would stay away. But yeah, so I actually acquire all my insects from a man in Italy primarily, unless of course it's a species that is, they're bred in an entirely different country. But generally, so this man, he's an entomologist, he's an environmental scientist, and he breeds everything not for how do I explain it? So they're not farm bred insects. So you obviously know about farm bred dogs and mass bred dogs, mass produced, all that sort of stuff. That's not what this is. He actually studies them to better understand their needs in the wild, and he works on species that have had devastation due to land development and things like that. So he is actually studying them and trying to learn more about them and what we can do to conserve them and help them survive a bit longer. So yeah, that's generally where I get all of them from, and it can take 6 months, it can take a year sometimes, depending on what he's working on at the time. It really is sort of just a mystery what I'm going to get, and that's what I love about it too. You just never know.
Yeah, that's crazy. What type of species do you acquire from him?
I get a lot of moths, obviously. So I guess the fancy name is Lepidopteras, and basically they're just big, chubby, fluffy. They got massive antlers. So like you've seen Silence of the Lambs.
Yep.
Yep. So the death's head hawk moth, Acriontia atropos, is the exact one that I get, and that's probably one of my most sort of sought after specimens. They're just absolutely beautiful, and the awesome thing about them is I actually get to see them alive. So he'll send me videos and of them crawling up his arms and things like that, and it's just incredible. And it's something we'd never see here, so it's really amazing to sort of have the opportunity to see all that stuff. But yeah, so the Silence of the Lambs moth, those type of ones, big, fluffy, colourful. I love them all.
Yeah, you'll have to send some photos through, and I'll post them up and take them off your
sure.
your Insta. What type of enclosures does he breed them in and keep them in? And
so I think he's recently moved locations. So they're, I think, smack bang in winter right now. It's really difficult to sort of keep certain species breeding throughout this sort of climate. But he has his own. It's almost like a tropical, like an oasis, all different things, just if you can think of like when people go fruit picking, there's all the big, the netting and everything sort of nicely enclosed with all the trees. It's beautiful. It's sort of like that, if you can think of like that. It's just a nice, just a big like oasis. That's the only way I can describe it.
So is that
if you hate moss, it'd be hell in there, but.
Yeah, I know a few people that are shit scared of moths.
I know
run the other way.
A few. Probably name 5 right now that are just terrified of them. So that would just be hell. Yeah.
So is it like an indoor enclosure or like in a shed?
No, so I believe it's sort of like he's got outdoor until they get to a certain age, things like that. Like some are bred inside until they're ready to, emerge, and then they go out and they feed, and they all have a very specific time span in which they have to live their lives. So it's all very I don't know how to explain it. It's a very structured sort of process. Like they have to be very careful, and they'll only breed at certain times. They need to be happy, they need to be loved. They're very delicate.
Yeah, I bet. What type of lifespan do these moths have?
Oh gosh, so most of them can have anywhere from 10 to maybe 30 days, and generally they spend from the moment they emerge, they spend that whole, let's say, 30 days traveling to find their mate to breed, and then they literally die straight away after. Yeah. So their sole purpose in life is to just get out there, look beautiful, and breed. That's it.
Yeah.
And you get a lot of, that's so cruel, like, blah, 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 but people don't sort of realize they live an entire life in that 30 days, you know what I mean? We might get 70, 80, 90 years, but that's their whole life. It's just crazy.
It is. Like you see those big rain moths we get down here.
Yeah.
Like they come out just before a big rain, and the next morning they're dead everywhere, all over the ground.
Yeah, well, because the majority of them will only eat during the caterpillar stage. So then once they become moths, they have mouth parts, but they're not functional. So they don't actually eat. Some will drink, and I think there are a couple that will eat. But yeah, generally it all happens when they're little tiny caterpillars, and from then on they just, go do their job.
Yeah, wow. So what goes into transporting these insects and moths and all of that back to Australia?
I like to do things, I guess, the difficult way, just to ensure that I'm doing the right thing and I'm following, procedures and our laws and, respectful of their laws over there and all those things. It's got to be, I find the more cooperative you are and the more you provide, customs and things like that, the easier it is. But yeah, it's basically once these, specimens come to a certain stage or a certain day when they really sort of start to go dormant, if that makes sense. Generally, they're humanely put to sleep. They're treated. A lot of the times they're frozen. This will, get off any sort of little microbial bugs, anything like that, any little diseases, just to ensure that, traveling through countries, it's going to get here safe. It's not going to bring anything that's going to harm, our biodiversity and our animals. And so, yeah, it's pretty strict. And so he has to provide, and this is every single time I import, so this is a constant thing year round. He has to provide a letter stating where he's from, his facility, the process is used, what insects they are to ensure they're not endangered, protected, anything that's not allowed in our country. So we have a really good understanding with each other what is allowed and what isn't, and we're very careful about it. So, yeah, I find it's just a matter of having someone you trust, and it should be pretty smooth depending on what you're getting. But yeah, insects, like I said, as long as they're not protected, endangered, it's pretty smooth sailing to get them here. And I've been doing it for a while now, so I usually get them quite quick.
So what type of packaging is involved to send them over? Because
they're wrapped up like little porcelain dolls. Like they arrive in, a big box, and then inside will be a container, a really, heavy duty plastic container, and then inside of that another box. Inside of that, we'll have, bunches of cotton wool and paper. And sometimes it just takes me, 10 minutes just to get through the layers, because you've got to be careful too, you don't know where one's sort of going to be situated. But yeah, it's almost just like unwrapping all these little flappy gifts. Like they're awesome. Yeah. And they come, they come folded, they come closed. We call it papered. Their wings are completely closed. So I don't actually get to see what they look like, on their forefront until I rehydrate them. So it's exciting.
So what entails rehydrating them and pinning them out? And
so there's a couple of different methods generally. Yeah, so rehydrating, generally I'll use a hot water method. There are a couple of different ones that people use, but it's all just, personal preference and what better for you. I sometimes will inject them in the abdomen with hot water, and this sort of just gives them a more full appearance. So like the moths we were talking about, those gigantic ones up in Queensland, and you've seen them before, the rain moths, they will shrink quite a lot. So, I will inject them sometimes or just sort of dunk them in hot water, and they'll almost expand a little bit. And it's just knowing how much to put in and not putting in too much. And, just basically just trying to loosen up them wing joints so that I can set them into a nice, more lifelike position.
So do you have to do any, like with, I don't know what you'd call it, traditional taxidermy with animals and stuff, how they repaint them? Do you have to repaint them or put any more colour back into them, or do they keep their colour?
Yeah, sometimes. Well, that's how you can always sort of tell a good quality specimen, or what we call an A1 specimen, from a lower quality one. So if they're not happy in, their life, it shows in their death, and it really does. So, people get a lot of insects that have been, mass bred overseas, and it's very easy to get them here, but they notice the colours aren't vibrant. They'll have a lot of damage, and they have some tears to their wings, and that's solely because they have, haven't been cared for properly in life. They've either been, taken out of the wild, and it's been stressful for them. And, there's a lot of contributing factors, but you can really, really tell a difference. But sometimes I will have to, repaint the body. Very rarely will I have to do anything to the wings unless it's, glue up a little seam that might have split, or, sometimes they have little splits, but some people like them like that as well. So it really just depends on what I'm doing with them, really.
Yeah. So
how I'm displaying them.
What type of painting are you doing on them? Is it like airbrush work? Is it?
Gosh, no. I just use a little teeny tiny little paintbrush. It's like, 2 little fibers, tiny, and it's just because they have hairs. They're covered in hairs. So if you saturate it too much, you can see the paint.
Yeah.
So it's just it's funny because I have terribly shaky hands, extremely shaky hands, but this has taught me to calm it down, while I do it. So not only is it, my job, but it's also like it helps me relax, which I think is awesome. And I think that's why a lot of people do it as well. But no, yeah, just a little tiny paintbrush with the tiniest little bits of paint, and I just sort of just dab it on there until I'm satisfied that it looks, even and I'm happy with it. Yeah.
I could definitely see it being very artistic. Like you're seeing more and more women getting into it, and they're putting more of an artist twist into it and a female touch, especially like with traditional taxidermy. Like the rate of females getting into it is just insane. It's awesome, but it's
absolutely. And I think it's just one of those things. It's like, they say women have the maternal, they're just naturally mothers, women. And I think it's almost very similar when it comes to insects. Like I just find the way females will place the insects with the backgrounds and things like that.
Yeah.
But don't get me wrong, there are some absolutely unbelievable men that do entomology, like crazy things that they do with them, and I couldn't even fathom doing it myself. So it's just really depends on what you like and what your, I don't know, where your skill set's at.
So with the type of taxidermy and entomology and nature preservation you do, so when people think taxidermy, they think of mounting animal heads on a form, gluing it and all of that stuff. So describe what your version of taxidermy is.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, exactly. People naturally assume that I do the skinning and I do the tanning and mounting and all of that. So taxidermy isn't just, refined to that one specific type, so it's really the preservation of an animal, of their exterior, preservation. That's basically it. So while I don't do mounts, I do cleaning. So I macerate, skulls, and so bull skulls. I've done camels. I get a lot of tiny things. I get cats. Just really whatever I sort of come across, or if someone, and you try and make friends sort of in the local area. You make friends with farmers and you help them out and you help each other out, things like that. There's always ways to acquire things sustainably and ethically, I think. Like everyone's ethics are different, but, like I said, it's just a person-to-person basis. But, so I do maceration as well. So I will clean skulls for, display. I'll also, just clean animals that people have maybe gotten on a hunt, things like that, which all well and true about.
Yep.
But I don't do so all that sort of stuff. I always refer to Romana, who I'm sure you know from Fox Hollow Taxidermy. She's amazing.
Yep,
she does the most incredible deer. Like I don't know if you saw her vampire deer, but it was just absurd, and the hours she put into that. Oh yeah,
by vampire deer, I'm thinking
I think it was a sambar, and it just had fangs, these huge fangs, and it was just gorgeous. Like,
wow.
Never seen anything like it. So cool. But yeah, like I said, everyone has their niche, and that just isn't mine. I'm more I get the satisfaction from, cleaning them from, whatever state or condition they've come in, and they turn into something beautiful that someone can keep, forever. So
what's your cleaning process for skulls and bones and?
Well, it really depends on how they come in. Like I very rarely get things in that still have, a face or have flesh in needing of fleshing or anything like that. Very rarely. It's usually something small, but yeah, it's just it depends on the weather. Like I'm always hanging for summer. It's my favorite time because you want that water a bit warm,
Yeah.
And I'm sure this is the people, like if there's people listening that are, they're going to think this is pretty gross, but it is what it is. But yeah, it's just a matter of getting temperature right and gently getting off whatever tissue remains on the specimen. Some people will just put them, a lot of people call them stink pots. They'll, go out hunting. They'll, take whatever it is they want to keep and chuck it in a pot, fill it with water, forget about it. And this is a very effective method. It just takes a bit longer and it's a bit smelly.
I know that.
Whereas a lot of people do that. Whereas I use a couple more like chemical methods just to ensure everything's clean enough to be in a home so that it's not going to leak, things like that. So I'll use ammonia, I use different types of bleach, I ensure it's gentle enough, it's not going to damage the skulls. But yeah, it's a pretty simple, once you get going and you figure out what different animals require different times or different, different products to clean them or degrease them. Like dingoes take forever, whereas, a goat might not take as long. Like it just really depends on where the animals come from, what they've eaten, so many factors. But you sort of just get into a groove with what you use and products that you like to use.
So going on with skulls and antlers, you went into it a little bit. How do you acquire the skulls and antlers and stuff you work with? So you already covered like farmers and some hunters and that. What about your roe deer and stuff that you're getting from overseas?
Yeah, so initially I was just getting, Australian species. I was just getting a lot of fallow and a lot of red deer, and obviously they're not always readily available, and it's not something I encourage people to say, you need to go out and get this so you can sell it. You know what I mean? It's something you wait until it's available. That's how I feel about things. I will wait until something's there. If it comes up, awesome, But obviously that doesn't pay the bills either. So you sort of got to expand a bit. So I started looking into importing, and I sort of just dove head first and just started importing as much as I possibly could. These would come from almost like what we have here, commercial meat factories, but, their own over in Europe. So there'll be, there's contract hunters, what they would call pest control, people who, a lot of you guys do go out and have to, what's the words? They have to, go out and assist and drop numbers, because you know what it's like. Yeah. So, the antlers that I import, I do get, so roe deer antler, capriolas. Everyone seems to know them by that. And they're a really tiny little, I don't think they get much heavier than, 15, 20 kilos. They're quite small. And they have a really bizarre variation in their antler. You never know what you're going to get. Sometimes they curl, sometimes they split. And they just have this really crazy growth about their antler. I'm not sure what makes them like that, but they're, really diverse. But they drop them, I believe they drop them a lot more commonly than, larger deer. So they're easily acquired overseas. A lot of people collect them. They'll go out antler hunting. And then there's, pest control hunters and people who have to do culling on land and things like that. But they're a predominant meat animal over in Europe. So there's, that's what we have left over, and we should always utilise what is left over and not, just dispose of things.
So what countries in Europe are you acquiring these roe deer from?
Oh, I've got a couple of different ones. I get a lot from the Netherlands. I have, friends over there, same as with over in Italy. I've developed partnerships with these people over years, and, we help each other a lot getting things in and out, and if they want something specific from here, and, vice versa. So, I do Netherlands. I think I do business in Serbia. Where else? Oh, gosh, there's so many. You forget the names of them. And because it's very difficult, that sort of interaction with people that don't speak English.
Exactly.
So sometimes it can take quite a while.
No, that's awesome that you get to make all these connections of all these other countries that you probably would never have contact with if it wasn't for what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do. You learn about these people, and they're just like us. They've all got families and they're trying to provide, and what might be extremely common over there is, a bit taboo here. Like, people have different opinions about things, but we all have common ground, and, you just really get to know who you're working with, and you trust them. And it's so important to trust people when you do importing, because it's so dangerous as well.
Yes.
So dangerous. You can, the risk is huge with importing.
Yeah, with all the biosecurity risks and stuff. So coming...
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Coming through customs, just say they find mites or bugs or too much hair or a bit of flesh. What's the process then with customs?
Oh, so I think wasn't my most recent roe shipment, but probably the one before. I think it was last year. I'd been waiting on this to arrive, and it said it had been, in Sydney. And eventually, probably a week or two had passed, I got a letter in the mail that notified me that there was, still organic matter remaining on some of the antler. So it was basically just a real small amount of dried hide around, like, the pedestal base of the antler. This, I guess I got unlucky. Generally, I've seen people have got insects in with their imports and things like that. So it really just depends on how thorough, the customs officer is. And absolutely they should be, because we shouldn't risk that. But yeah, so I got unlucky, and it's basically you pay to have treatment, which is like a gamma ray treatment. It's like a heat blast. Insects can't handle it, so they just get destroyed. It's just not even worth paying for. It destroys them. But yeah, so it goes through a treatment that basically guarantees that there's nothing organic left on the box. So yeah, you pay for it based on weight usually. Otherwise it just gets destroyed. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, crazy. It'd be definitely hard dealing with customs if
and I find the difficult thing is there's not many people that know all the ins and outs, because there's so much to know, like all the indexes are updated constantly and regulations are constantly changing. And if someone does something wrong, then things get stricter. And yeah, it's really hard, and it's really easy to get deterred from doing it just because you do have failures when you import. But it depends on what you're importing as well. And like I said, if you do it for a while, they sort of learn who you are, and they know, okay, they're getting this consistently, and this is where it's coming from. And if you've got your paperwork in order, and you can say, this is where I get it, this is how it's acquired, this is how it's treated, generally you're going to speed through pretty quick. You just need to be honest. That's all.
Is there much, like, if something goes wrong, is there chances of getting fined importing this stuff in, or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've had a couple of fines. I usually expect a fine. Generally just because you just don't know. And the sooner you just, pay these things, they're going to get to you safely and quickly, because, the longer you delay them, they sit around, they get damaged. They, things happen to these boxes. They don't just sit there and look pretty until they're ready to go. These people want them out. So, if you're getting a fine, usually it's, $30, $50. It depends on what you've brought in and what needs to be treated. So yeah, you might get, a $30 fine, and then you have to pay your treatment fee, which will be X amount times the weight, things like that. So it really just depends. Yeah.
For that's really not too bad, for it being something government and let alone federal as well. Like you would think. I agree. I think it's pretty lenient considering, and especially because animal products as well, they have to be very thorough about it. So, yeah, I think the process is pretty good considering. But having said that, that's just importing animals that aren't sighted animals. They're not on the endangered species list. They're not anything like that. But because that's a whole nother different that's a whole nother different ball game when you get to we'll jump into that one soon.
Yeah,
try and cover it a little bit.
Going ahead, am I?
So what's the sustainability like when you're collecting and acquiring these insects and antlers, and like what do you do to make sure that you're getting it from a sustainable source that's not doing dodgy stuff?
Well, like I said, it's just a matter of doing your research. I think this day and age, especially with social media and technology, it's so easy to get scammed, and a majority of the time you're not talking to who you think you're talking to. So you just got to be a little bit switched on, and talk to people first. If you can, get a look at their profiles or, their Instagrams or whatever, and get a gauge for, okay, they've been on here for a while, they got pictures that, they're real. You can tell. You usually can tell the real from the fakes. They are getting better though. But yeah, it's just a matter of developing a relationship to make sure that you know exactly where your product's coming from. So, for example, I did business with someone in Hungary who breeds his own. They're a meat sheep over there. It's the Raka, the big spiral horn sheep. Yep. You would have seen them. I've had skulls of them, and I have a mount as well. I think they're just beautiful. But so they're actually the meat sheep over there, just like a lamb would be here for us. So rather than putting them through the process of meat processing, rather than just disposing of the head and the antlers, this person can further feed his family by, doing a little bit of extra work on them and getting them ready to sell. And, if they didn't do that, these things would just be buried, and that would be the end of it, So at least in this respect with them, utilizing what is left over, and it's not just skulls and antlers, it's, if they're not using hooves, if, it could be anything. Everyone sort of has a purpose for something, and everything has a place, and yeah, people just find ways to to utilize what's left over.
Yeah, it's crazy, especially the last, I don't know, probably five-ish years, how much has blown up for people collecting skulls and antlers.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Like, I've had my neighbors ask me for, oh, can we have a skull? Can we have antlers? Can we have a horn? We just want to hang one in the house, or a friend wants one. Do you have any spare? Do you find them?
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah.
For someone like me, it's a bit different, because if I find something, I'm finding it, and it's like a memory for me. So to give it away is hard for me to do. The same as if I shoot something like a deer or a goat, it's hard for me then to give that skull away, because
absolutely,
it is those memories,
No, I totally understand. I have the worst attachment issues to my items. Like because I get a lot of antiques. I get in a lot of antiques and things that are, some things are hundreds of years old. I have a book. It's actually the Encyclopedia of Natural History, and there are actually species of animal in this book that I've never heard of. Things that were already extinct before our time, just crazy things that you can get, in the way of antiques, and I really find it hard to part with them. So I have a steadily growing collection of, really old things and antlers and skulls, and it's very hard to part with some things, especially when they come with a story, in a background.
Yeah, you send some pretty cool photos through every now and again. Like you sent an antler pipe through.
Yes.
And then was it an antler lighter or something?
Yeah, so it was an original penguin lighter, carved, deer antler. It was amazing. Red deer antler. It's huge.
Yeah,
and it's got, the original mechanisms. They're brass. They're beautiful. Like, I just love all the old, components and the old craftsmanship.
It's like a wick lighter,
who thinks to do those things these days? Nobody, because we don't need to.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We have so much accessibility to just go buy something, buy it online, go to the shops and buy it, rather than actually get our hands dirty and make something. But it's just, so to find them is just so special, and I just don't ever want to give them away.
Yeah, that pipe and antler were pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, moving on to the CITES animals.
Yes.
What type of paperwork do you have to do, and how do you find out what class of CITES they are? And
okay, so I know everyone's regulations are different. They vary state to state. So in here, specifically in New South Wales, I initially had to acquire a hobbyist license to practice taxidermy, and that was to allow me to, basically collect natives, collect things off the road if I chose to do so, have to keep logbooks, things like that. So I probably had that license for a year and a little bit, maybe a year and a half. And then I, started doing all the cleaning and learning the processes, and basically there's a huge index of, CITES animals and what you can and can't do, and what's allowed, what's not allowed. And I couldn't even tell you how many pages it is. It's just unbelievable. Essential if you want to do it, but just not for one normal person to do. You've got to be a bit of a freak to get through that whole thing. But it's there. Anyone can access it to see, what animals you can safely import over, or, anything that's not allowed and things like that. But yeah, it's very specific, and it's not something that I generally delve into. So like I said, I've got many co-workers around me who deal directly and specifically with CITES animals, protected species, endangered. They get lions, they get bears. I know in America specifically, it can be quite difficult to get some things in because of the licensing that you need and that they need, and just so many loopholes, so many things. You just have to know a lot. So it's not really something that I've delved into. And like I said, if people are after a specific species, maybe one that's endangered or protected, I will refer them on to someone who knows much more what they're talking about and has experience, because there are separate licenses and things required in order to get them in. And yeah, it's so much. And you got another thing, I think you have to have a bit of a niche for it to do it.
Yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong. The CITES list is basically to regulate trade on endangered and critically endangered animals.
Yeah, exactly. So the CITES is basically there to protect our animals to protect, our natives, as well as everyone else's, countries. Something as small as a bumblebee getting in from another country could destroy our entire ecosystem. Little things like that people don't realize. And that's where, the insects come into it again. Insects make up 75% of our entire animal population. Like, that is huge. It's just something to be thought about. They do it for a reason. It's not just to be jerks. It's not just to be like, no, you can't have that because it's pretty and it's not something that we have here. It's entirely to protect what we're trying to, preserve here. I think a lot of people think it's all just crap and it's all just bullshit and it's just, it's 100 and so pages of bullshit. But no, if you actually look at it, it will tell you exactly when this animal was declared, vulnerable, and then when it became endangered, and then, the threat, and, it gives you estimations of time frames, and, everything that you could possibly want to know about a species is in those CITES lists. So it's really, really interesting, especially for someone starting out in taxidermy, or, if they want to get more into exotic animals and things like that. It's a really interesting index to have just to refer to if you want to know something. It's really, really interesting.
There's some cool animals on the CITES list.
Oh God, yeah.
That's for sure.
Absolutely.
So, off-cuff question.
Yeah.
Normally, I ask what's the top 5 dream animals to hunt, or top 5 fish to catch. What would be your top 5 skulls to have, or your top 5 insects to own, just for your own collection?
Yeah. Well, see, Zach, the thing about that is, when I become, enamored with something, I need it. I sort of just, once I want something specific and I'm like, okay, I just need to go and get it, or I'm going to get over it, sort of thing. And this is where my obsession with the Jacob's sheep have come in. You know all about my Jacob's sheep. I love them. They're polystyrate. They have 4 horns usually. They can have anywhere up to 6 horns. And they're just an absolutely incredible beast of a breed. And I just think they're beautiful. But they also come with an awesome story. I won't go too far into it. Basically, the sheep, they are believed to be in the book of Genesis. So they sort of have a religious thing attached to them. I myself am not religious, but I think the story is awesome. Whether it's, myth or real, like whatever it is, I just think it's really cool. And I have books relating to them, and things from.
Also have like a satanic vibe.
Oh yeah, they look evil. They look so evil. There's the Jacob sheep are piebald generally, so they're white with black spots, and they have these beautiful, usually blonde sort of horns. And then there's another breed which is in I think might be Ireland maybe, but there's a Hebridean sheep, and they are just black, pure black horns, and they just look like the devil, and they're just beautiful. And that's something I haven't been able to get, so that would definitely be. I've already got the Jacobs, so my next one would definitely be a Hebridean skull for sure. I think that'd be awesome. It'd just scare anyone who comes, people come in and see the things I've got. It freaks them out. So imagine coming in and seeing this big black ram,
taxidermied or like a European mount?
I'd need one of each. So I would, because it's so different seeing, like some of the Jacobs that I have 2 stunning Jacobs here. One is actually from a zoo in the Netherlands, who I acquired when I was very first starting out, and he is just my pride and joy. Like, he's just beautiful, and it's more like I've said about the insects, it's the fact that I would never really have the opportunity to see these in real life. Like, there are some multi-horn sheep breeders in Australia, but not really accessible within, where I am. So I can't just go and, visit them and pet them, and, it's very special. But I don't know. I think you'd have to have one of each if it's a supreme collector item, like I have with the raka. Like, I've got a mounted raka, and he's got the cutest, creepiest little face, and I just think you're gorgeous. It just makes me happy.
So there's 2 down, 3 more. If you had unlimited money.
Jacob's a Hebridean. I would love a Pierre David's deer skull.
They are a trippy looking deer.
Absolutely beautiful. And my girlfriend in the Netherlands is a avid deer. I've told you all about this girl. She's just her life is devoted to deer. She loves them. Photos. Yeah. We had that disagreement about the brown deer skull. that was a good one. But her collection is just wild and just stunning. And she has one, and ever since I've seen it, and because, the name David is very special in my family. It's my son's name and my dad, and it's sort of a running line. So I just feel like it'd be something to have, in my collection. But the chances of getting one like that would either be very unlikely or very costly. So yeah, I like to wait around sometimes, and if things are meant to be, they'll pop up.
They have a heap of them in Texas. I actually know a guy I think he's in Louisiana who, because they have some farms over in Louisiana too. I think he's shot one as well. I've got him on Facebook somewhere. But they basically look like a red deer. For people that don't know who are listening, they basically look like a red deer but backwards antlers. Like instead of that.
Oh yeah.
They're trippy.
It's just incredible. Yeah, they're cool. And, there's some that you think are real creepy looking, like, the heart beast. And I think it's the blesbok you think are weird looking.
Yeah, the heart beast.
The heart beast. But, I think they're all special in their own way.
Yeah, no.
But we definitely have preferences. People definitely have preferences. I think I've got another one actually, would be an argali, the giant ram.
Yeah.
That would be an absolute... Yeah, I would love to have an argali, but I believe they are on, vulnerable status. So another thing, and they're huge. So it's just very difficult to import. So that would definitely be.
It seems like a lot of your list is sheep species. Why sheep species?
I don't know. I've never really noticed that. Because generally I don't, it's going to sound terrible, but like sheep aren't my favorite thing in the world, I'm a dog person, I love dogs, like dogs are everything.
Yeah, they are for you.
But I don't know what it is about sheep. It must just be that attraction to the look, I think.
It's that satanic vibe that sheep skulls.
It's that
and goat
vibe,
skulls.
yeah. It's the horns. Like it's just incredible how they grow like that. And with the argali, they get a full, almost perfect revolutionary horn curl. Like imagine carrying that much weight around in your head. Like it's just so impressive. And the Jacob skull, one of them that I have here, he was very old, and you can tell, and this is what I love about them, you can tell just based off the damage to his skull, how thick his skull is. Like this skull would have to weigh 6-7 kilos. It's huge. It's so heavy. Like it's so heavy. It's ridiculous. And it's thick. You could probably hit it with a hammer and nothing would happen to it. And you can see where bone has been damaged from ruts and fighting, and it's regrown and thickened, and it's just incredible. And I don't know, maybe I think that's what I like about them. They're just rough and tough, and they're just not really scared of anything. I don't know. I just like them.
Well, you watch those bighorn sheep fight in North America, and they just they go hard. They hit each other so.
Oh God, yeah, and their heads are just so strong. It's unbelievable.
And there's some of them are like a 2-liter Coke bottle at the base. Like they're just carrying that much weight.
Yeah,
it's insane.
It's just crazy.
I definitely think.
But, I guess it's just that.
Mouflon would be the prettiest sheep species that I can think of off the top of my head.
I have had mouflon in. I think their skulls are absolutely beautiful. But as a living animal, obviously they're beautiful. They have the most beautiful colours and coat, and
they do.
They make absolutely stunning mounts. And I don't think they're as they don't get as much credit as they deserve. I think they're a really incredible species. And usually you'll say to someone, "Oh, mouflon," they have absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah,
there's so many species out there we have no idea about, and I think we're really missing out not having more access. Even if it was like a conservation facility or a zoo or somewhere that you can, or even a museum with pictures or taxidermy mounts where you can go and see creatures that are in other countries. And because we got no idea. Like there's so much out there.
Well, you just look at that Saga antelope that we've spoken about before. It looks like it's got the flaccid dick on its face.
The anteater. It's weird, that thing.
Like I shared it on Instagram when we're having that disagreement.
I know.
And everyone's like, is that a real animal? Like all these people like, what is that? I've never seen that before. Is that real? Is that something out of Star Wars?
You know what I reckon is even creepier? Is it the dibber tag? They got those long necks and these tiny little creepy faces. Like there's so many weird animals out there.
But
it's just funny. It's funny to see people's views. Like some people will think, "Oh my God, that is adorable and so weird and cute," and other people are just absolutely repulsed by it. Like, It just depends on what sort of person you are, I guess.
Exactly. So, have you faced much pushback from like greenie types and vegan types and all of that with what you do?
Yeah, man. Absolutely. I used to be, last year was quite, obviously with COVID constantly up and down, and we've just suffered lockdowns, followed by flooding and rain, and it's just, it never ends here. But, you get on with it. But yeah, at a point when it was, good weather and things were good, I was doing a lot of market trading. So just a lot of, Sunday events, or, if they had something on like Halloween or whatever, just try and get out there a bit into the community. I live in a bit of a, it's a pretty, how do I say without sounding, it's a pretty conventional, like, not upper class, but it's just probably middle class. It's just, people they don't like seeing what I do, basically. It's taken a little while to sort of get people to warm up to me, but, people know me. I'm that weird purple-headed girl that's at the markets with skulls. That's, that's how people know me. But yeah, that's that. Last year I did a lot of markets, and very rarely would I have people say things that were negative, or it was more of just, a curiosity and wanting a bit of education on certain things. But every now and then you'll get, a real good one right out the lolly bag. And, I've had one person just straight up, walk straight up to me and just say, this is disgusting, like absolutely disgusted with me. And, I was absolutely not rude. I just said, I'm sorry you feel that way. What's the problem? And this has happened to quite a few other taxidermists and things that I know. And, this person asked me, why would there be any need to even kill animals when, meat is grown now? And I had this sort of, I didn't know if I wanted to giggle and be like, you're joking. You know what I mean? Like, you're joking. But no, this person genuinely believed, and I think it's because we don't have to think when we go to the supermarkets. We just pick it off a shelf.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't have to think. It's very accessible. It's packaged. It's pretty. We don't have to think about it. And I think some people are very misconstrued by what we're told, in the media and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this person had a very firm belief that animals don't need to be used for meat anymore, and that was a big shocker for me, because I just thought, wow, I wonder how many people genuinely, believe that. Like, yeah, there is plant-based, what they call meats, in the vegan section and all that. But yeah, that just blew my mind. But yeah, no, I do. I've gotten comments like, it's disgusting, and while people are eating meat, telling me it's disgusting what I do, things like that. But no, generally it's pretty good. But I think it depends on your area and where you are. Like, I went probably 45 minutes away from home to a different area, and it was horrendous, the things these people were saying to me. Like, no, it was, I got pretty thick skin, and I'll do my best to just get on with it. Not everyone's going to have the same opinion, and that's absolutely fine. But some people do take it a little bit too far, just with comments and the assumption that I'm out slaughtering animals for their skulls and things of that nature. And, I've had a woman come up and say, oh, you go out and catch these insects, it's so wrong. And even with me, very politely trying to explain, no, this is how I get them. And, I have papers always on my displays, so they can read, they can see the man himself who breeds them for me. And everything is out there in the open, total transparency. I don't bullshit. If something has come to me because it was put down, for example, a bull that's too aggressive on the farm, they've had to shoot it. I don't make up some story like, oh, this and this. No, this is what happened, and this was his life, and this is how his life ended, and this is what I'm doing now to try and, give him some sort of recognition at the end,
Yeah, exactly. So that's
all. But like I said, people don't get that. So
yeah, it's a strange one. Like, I follow a bunch of the skull and bone collecting pages, and it's surprising. There seems to be like a trend of like vegan greenie types joining those groups too.
Absolutely, because I think a lot of it is, osteology. A lot of people are more curious about, the animal, like their skeletons, like things. A lot of people have that curiosity, but I have met actually quite a few taxidermists that are either vegetarian or vegan, and they just don't. It's more the fact that they don't feel the need to push their beliefs or what they do on others that makes them as successful at their job. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've seen people advertising with like these greeny vegan type taxidermists that,
Yeah.
we don't work with anything that's actually hunted that has to die naturally. We only...
Yeah. I'm thinking of a meme right now that you shared, and it's like, you must only eat animals that have committed suicide.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I think of when people, give me shit about my job or, eating meat or whatever. I don't think people realize just how much, animals and animal products are still utilized in everyday life, in daily life. Like, we put, animal product in our skin, we wear it, we eat it, we put it in our hair. It's in so many things that we don't realize. So I always think to myself, if you're going to be judging someone based on what they're doing or what they believe in, you really have to consider what you're doing as well, because you may not even know it. Like, you'll be wearing leather shoes and people don't think that's come from a cow. Things like that. Like, people just have that disconnect. It's a total disconnect from
reality.
From reality. Yeah, absolutely. Because, I think I've seen one, I can't remember for the life of me the name of this show, but it was on Foxtel and I watched it years and years and years ago, and I cried my way through it, but it was very eye-opening, and it's something that I would, I'd probably start watching television again if they put more like this on. But basically it was, they attended a slaughterhouse. This was in Australia, I think. And they wanted to show two specific groups of people what it was like, animals going through a slaughterhouse and how they get their meat. So there was one side that didn't eat meat at all, vegans, vegetarians, and then there was the other side who were full-blown meat eaters. And at the end of this, both sides were bawling their eyes out just because of that disconnect of not realizing where our food comes from and not knowing the difference between commercial meat food and hunted food. Obviously all about that. But I don't get it as often anymore, like the people with the comments. But yeah, it definitely still comes. I got a message a week ago. It was a picture of you, a picture that I'd shared of you with a deer, and the abuse, mate. It was just hurling abuse, and I didn't respond, obviously, because there's no point.
It probably wasn't because of the dead deer. It was just my ugly mug triggered someone.
Just because of your face, yeah, it just triggered something in them and just set them off. But yeah, they were.
I have that effect.
Yeah, they were not happy. They were not happy, and that's fine. Like I said, everyone is entitled to their opinion, and as long as you're doing the right thing and you're not hurting the animals and you're not hurting people, then I don't see a problem with what I do or what many others do. And it, like you keep saying, it's just getting more and more popular. I think people are starting to really, and now I don't know whether that's a good thing. I don't know if that's going to create a higher demand for animals, animal parts. I hope not.
Well, that's the good thing about like antlers in specific is the deer drops them every year, so it is a very sustainable thing that you can keep selling, because there's going to, as long as there's deer, there's going to be antlers every year.
Exactly.
And
that's another thing that people don't realize, how much even antler is utilized in. It's in so many different animal products, feeding products. Because it's still keratin. Like, obviously everyone will probably go to a pet store and pick up deer antler for their big dog without even thinking about it. You know what I mean? They're just like, oh, this is a big tough chew thing for my dog. And yeah, that's where it's come from. I think if we thought more about what we're doing every day or buying or looking at, we'd realize how much animals are utilized in everyday life.
Well, for the longest time, and they probably still do, a lot of artificial colors and natural colors come from insects for foods and stuff, lollies and drinks, and like a lot of the reds all comes from insects.
Confectionaries.
It's crazy when you first find out that fact. People don't believe you, but
oh god, no, yeah, a lot of people, I think if we sat down and actually looked at, I don't know, just an example, if we went to the supermarket and just looked at all these, and we would probably find that way back on that process line, it started at some sort of animal product. Do you know what I mean? Whether they use the gelatin or it could be anything, but it's so much more commonplace than people think it is. And like I said, it's because of that disconnect. We don't have to think about it.
Exactly.
But that's what makes hunting special and why I have such an interest in it.
Yeah, well, when we first started talking, you had non-stop questions about hunting and what my thoughts were on hunting Africa and hunting like the big five and all of that, and we had lengthy discussions about all of that stuff, and I sent you a few links and articles and
Yep, you really got the ball rolling on my little fascination. No, it's different. It's different reading things online and then actually conversing with someone about not only what they do but a passion. And if anyone is passionate about it, it's you. So, you know, I've always been so grateful to have that. You know, I can always come to you if I have a question. You know, especially about an animal that I don't know about, or not one that I know you've gone out and hunted, or you've traveled to hunt, or you know, it's amazing having those sort of resources available.
Yeah, no. I'm constantly looking up, well, even finding out new species from what you post. You'll post something, or someone else will post something, and I'll be like, oh, got to go look this up.
Yeah.
But like,
so interesting. It's never ending.
Yeah, one of those videos I sent you at the start was on trophy hunting Africa. It was like a little cartoon clip, and it's my most used.
Zach, yes, that is my absolute go-to now. Like, I love that video. The way they explain it, the sarcasm in it, you know, just it's very real, and you know, it's very honest, and it just makes so much sense.
It still makes hunters look a little bit dickish, but it's
dicky as, but it gets the point across. You know what I mean? Like if you went to a cinema, so think about, let's just say John Wick comes out, I will be in gold class, let me tell you. But as soon as, let's just say John Wick comes out and the theater is packed, if they put that in the credit or in, you know, the start when everyone's sitting down with their popcorn getting ready, if they put that little dicky film in there, I can guarantee you every single person in that cinema would walk out thinking differently. Yeah. Absolutely.
At least a good half of them, people that are sitting on the fence.
Oh, yeah, some of them, yeah. Of course, there will always be ones that won't budge, but I think it would definitely change a lot of people's perspective just on things. Because I say this a lot to people as well, especially when they ask, you know, it's not very good you're getting all these roe deer in, the poor things, but we don't have to live in a country where they're invasive.
Yeah.
Same with people who have bears, who have wolves, who have panthers. You know, we don't have to. So what do we deal with? We deal with feral cats, and God, that sucks. You know, like I got a lot of friends in America who say, oh my gosh, it's horrific seeing your cat problem over in Australia. And it is, but we are lucky if you think about, we don't have bears at our front doors, and we don't have, you know, I guess it depends how you look at it. I'd probably prefer bears, but but it's just to sort of, you know, give an example, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd prefer bears because the meat
bears.
And the rugs.
Yeah, I know. I think we have a mutual friend, and he's always putting up, you know, putting up real funny Snapchats, and he actually put up one a little while ago. Just, you know, just woke up, just walked out the front. There's a deer, just standing out on the road, Hey, mate, you know what I mean? Like that's so cool. I love that.
Yeah, that's.
But here, I walk out the front, and there's just cats fighting. You know, like it's just such a pandemic.
Oh,
like
we have an abundance of feral animals. It's not just the cats. You know, there's foxes, feral dogs. Yeah. Multiple deer species.
Yeah, but see, you have to be very careful with what words you use when describing these animals. Like, you know, I'm very understanding of both sides, that they're just doing their thing, they're living their lives, they, you know, they're doing what comes naturally to them. And then on the other spectrum, there are farmers and, you know, property owners who are struggling to protect their livestock and their own animals because of this. You know, so it's sort of just that. Like I keep saying, it all comes down to personal ethics and what people think is right or wrong. But like I say, if you don't have to live with it and experience it, then you shouldn't really comment on it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like I always just try and hear it from other people's perspectives. You know, like you know, you'll see people posting camel seasons coming, and you know, dingoes, and you know, at one stage I got hundreds. I can't even tell you, hundreds of dingoes in from, you know, somewhere up in rural Queensland, and at the end of it, you know, they were exhausted, and they'd spent, you know, countless sleepless nights, days, you know, trapping or, you know, trying to get these numbers down because they'd found cattle that were being eaten from the inside out. Things like this, and things that we don't have to see. So, yeah, like I said, it's very easy to sit on your, you know, on your throne and just be like, that's so cruel. But until you live it and you experience it, you I really just don't think there's a place for commenting on it.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's some introduced species that, you know, if I could click my fingers, I'd make them disappear. But there's some that, you know, I wouldn't want Australia to not have them because, you know, these animals have made me and a lot of Australian hunters who they are, because with our native species, we don't really have anything to actually hunt. Kangaroos, you're not actually hunting them. You're shooting them because they're freaking stupid. Where deer are pretty smart.
No, exactly. Like and but that's the thing too. It's I think people have this this idea that hunters are going out purely just to exterminate an animal. It's like I just want to go out and kill something. Yeah. But I don't think they realize that a lot of the time it's for a reason, and it's because of these numbers. And at the same time, if the hunters weren't going out and doing this, numbers would be out of control. People don't see the numbers. They don't see, they don't see it. They don't see what goes on. And, you only sort of see when someone disagrees with going on, like aerial shooting or something like that. You only ever see the bad stuff, but you don't really ever see any credit given to what you're doing for, for our ecosystem and for the land and just for the animals in general. It is all about the animals at the end of the day.
Exactly. Yeah. Some people don't agree with the method. I'm not a massive fan of aerial culling. I just think it's a waste of a resource. But hey, for someone like you that collects skulls and that, if you can go to a spot that's been aerial culled, you'd have a field day collecting bones and skulls.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I love going out and collecting, but of course, like I'm a bit, you know what I'm like. I'm a bit of a sook as well. So, it's always a matter of just sort of just swallow, have a big gulp, and just go out and see what's there, and do the best you can for what just so it doesn't get wasted. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly.
Like, but at the end of the day, a lot of if a farm or a property can put these animals, if they have to put them down for whatever reason and they have to dispose of them, they will go back into earth. You know what I mean? It's more the commercial places that are mass killing these animals for food or for whatever. It's those ones that waste them. A lot of them will just burn them and things like that. And there's just so much we can do them for. People make jewelry, out of bones. And the fact that it's so taboo these days, when it's something that sort of shaped being a human, learning how to carve things and create things with what you have around you. Like, it blows my mind that we're so almost disgusted by these things.
Yeah, it's just because people live in cities and they're so out of touch with nature and reality at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of being out of touch with reality, what's your go-to zombie apocalypse weapon?
Oh, so I've listened to every single person's choice. So I was like, I hope I get this question. Hey, look, it's coming. We know it's coming.
Well, we've got monkeypox now, so surely zombies aren't too far.
Oh God, Zach, it's not. We don't have enough time to discuss all that. Okay, look, I'm a bit old school, but I'm choosing this because I'm a bit dumb as well. So I'm the type, I'll drop things. The less I have to carry, the better. So because I do love The Walking Dead, and I do have one of those like morbid obsessions with Negan, I'm going to have to say it'll be a bat with some nails. But it's still enough to sort of be, kind of close contact. So I'm going to go with a Lucille bat.
Nice.
I think that'd be great. Yep.
It would be until you get a few bent nails if the skulls are still a bit hard.
Yeah, well, I'll work it out, but it's going to be easier than, I'm too short to carry around like a fucking katana or something. I'm too short. I'm going to end up hurting myself. Guns, you need to constantly, have your bullets and all that shit. And yeah, like I said, I don't want to carry much. So I'm going to go with a bat, a nailed bat.
Very nice.
Yeah, and hopefully I'll be in a crowd that can, protect me as well.
So how do you see the public views on hunting and collecting animal parts? I know we touched a little bit on that, but...
Yeah. It's not anywhere where I think it should be. Yeah, I think we don't give enough acknowledgement or credit to animals. So we're a country, or I guess we're a world that's they're very disposable. You know what I mean? People just see them as disposable. But then they see something like hunting or culling, and then, they're the guardians of the earth. So it just depends. I think people have certain opinions because they're not as educated as we should be. I don't think we're taught enough in schools, about nature, about wildlife, what we need to do to protect it, how essential it is. You know, if the bees go, we're going to have to teach hundreds of mini people to pollinate plants and things like this, and just things that, technology is advancing, it's going to take but it shouldn't have to. You know, it shouldn't have to.
Exactly.
So, the views aren't good. The views aren't good. You mentioned hunting and people link it immediately to poaching.
Poaching or trophy hunting.
Or trophy hunting, exactly. And, God forbid you list something on your website that says trophy and I got them coming for me. Don't come at me. That I consider them trophies because they're beautiful.
Exactly.
I don't, in America or, other countries where they do all that, where it's very specific to what they're hunting for, it's different. But here, something like that considered a trophy, it's just, it's my way of honoring them, I guess. I think they're beautiful. So,
trophy could be the antlers, it could be your skin, it could be the skull. It doesn't have to be big antlers. But
no, absolutely not.
When it comes to like big antlers or big horns, that just shows how healthy the ecosystem is for that animal to get that big.
Exactly.
Like,
but people don't see that. People see that was an older, flourishing animal that was, he should have lived out his days. They don't see, like I said, we need that video to be much more readily available just because it's so hard to explain it between us. You know what I mean? It's that, like I said, that video was the first thing that really opened up my views on hunting. Like when you and I first started talking, I didn't dislike hunters, but I had that that superstition or that idea that they were just poachers.
Exactly.
Because there was always that association between those words, and they're so far apart. Now I know they're so far apart from that. It's just crazy. But then I always say this to people as well, like this, you got to think about when it comes to animals and meat and culling and whatever's going on. You got to think, are you happy with them being culled in a commercial industry where they're being, maybe taken from their mothers, where they're being possibly tortured? We've had cases of that plenty of times in Australia where they just torture them. Or you got to think, is that more ethical, or is, an animal taking a shot and never knowing it's coming? It's that difference and what you're ethically okay with. It's hard.
Exactly.
It's so hard. It doesn't matter what you say, you're a shit person, Zach. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we say. You just have to be true to what you're confident in, and you got to, if you can back up, this is why, and because of the population increase, and this is what's happened, blah 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 blah. There's so much information out there. So I don't know. I think the public views aren't great, but I think they're getting better. I think they are getting better.
Yeah, a lot of the times when I bring up hunting, people are like, "Oh, you don't do that trophy hunting, do you?" And I'm like, "Well." No, I break it down. I break it down to them, and they're like, "Oh, okay,
yeah.
I didn't see that way." Oh, but you wouldn't go to Africa and shoot a rhino, or you wouldn't go to Africa and shoot an elephant. I'm like, if I had the money and time, I probably would. And then their jaws drop, and they're like, Why would you do that? And then I go into the reasons why.
And there's always incentives behind something.
And what the money does.
Primary thing in that. Exactly.
Where the meat does.
That's exactly right.
And then I'm like,
we don't know. Yeah.
I'll be like, watch this sometime, and then I'll send them that video that we're talking about. I'll have to post it up on the Instagram.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's a little silly, but it's probably my
silly,
biggest.
But you know what? In this day and age, it's probably good for things to be more simplified because the more complicated things are, the harder it is for people to understand.
Exactly.
My nephews could understand that video. You know what I mean? Like it's simple, it's silly, but it's absolutely honest and to the point, and it makes us realize that we are in a country where we are pretty lucky. So we don't have to, we don't have to pay people to come and maybe cull our largest whatever we've got, because we need to feed our villages, things like that. Like we're advantaged here. So like I said, it always comes down to not judging unless we live there and we experience it. Like, yeah, 100%. It's the same with hunting, with a job. It doesn't matter if you disagree with it, that's fine. Just keep it to yourself. Like it's, we're all just doing the best we can out here, as long as you're not hurting anyone or, hurting yourself. That's the main thing.
So how would you change the public views on hunting, hunters, and selling dead bits?
Yeah. Look, I think it's not something I push on people, and that's because it's not for everyone. It's pretty confronting. And like I've said, even sometimes I'll get a bullhead, and he'd been put down for whatever reason, sick or whatever. But yeah, it does. It still affects me and it upsets me, and that's because I love animals. You know, it doesn't matter dead or alive. They're important. They have a place, and there's still so much to learn about them once they die. So I guess if I could change the public views, or if I could ask people to do something, it would just be a little more open-minded to things. You know, if you're ever feeling curious or you're bored, you know, jump on and do a little bit of research on history and just the history of animals and how they got us here, because it is a fact that without animals, humans wouldn't survive. And the same with
100%.
insects. If we lose more insects, we're done for. Last year or maybe it was the year before, but we actually became, as a whole, you know, the world, we became responsible for the largest mass extinction since the dinosaurs, and that involved flora and fauna. So we are killing animals at such an incredible rate, and that's, you know, why we need all the procedures in place and the sites and the licenses and, you know, all that good stuff. We need it because we need them.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I think I would just encourage people to be more open-minded. Don't be so judgmental and so quick to assume that we're doing something wrong, especially when it comes to hunting. You talk to someone for 5 minutes, you can tell what sort of hunter they are, you know?
Exactly.
But having said that, totally different worlds. The hunters do their thing and then the civilians do their thing, and everyone should be happy. But yeah, everyone should just keep an open mind and be more mindful when you're squishing a moth or squishing a bug. Just think of my face. Try your best not to do it, because they do. They all have a place, and they deserve a little bit more respect.
Yeah, that's the thing. People think that hunters hate animals.
Yeah,
and that's why they
you
kill
deer
them.
hunting savage.
But no, hunters for the most part have a respect for the animal, for the conservation of that animal.
And all of, like, you on Instagram, and, you know, Luke and Ilias, and there's a million of you on Instagram that I follow, even expanding over different countries. And if you look close enough at these photos, you can actually see the emotion in all of your faces, because it's not just going out. And I know it sounds a bit faggy, but it's true. You can see the ways of looking at the animal. You know, it's you can see it's an appreciation and it's a gratefulness that you've gotten out, and you've gone. People must just think you go out bang bang, you're dropping 10, 20 at a time. No, sometimes you're stalking for days. You know, and you're watching and you're waiting, and like, it's amazing to see the process you guys go through. And I think if people gave it a bit more of a chance and actually, you know, saw what goes into it, and like why people do it and what their personal reasons for doing it are, they'd probably think a lot differently about it, because it's so much more than just going out with a gun.
Exactly. So if people have enjoyed what they've heard, they want to check out your work, they want, I don't know, a custom piece, where can they find you? How can they contact
guys, you can come and find me down in Sydney. No. So yeah, I'm on pretty much everything. I try and give everything a go, but yeah, so if you want to jump on my Instagram, it's just Hey Succa and Skulls. You'll see me holding a giant moth in my hand. Facebook is the same, just Hey Succa and Skulls. I've got a website. You pretty much type in Hey Succa and Skulls and it'll take you wherever I am. And, you know, I love to chat with other like-minded people, and I've made some incredible friends via clients and customers. You know, they've just become it's hard to sort of find people that love and appreciate what you do. So when you find those people, you grab them. So I've got a really, really awesome and supportive crowd.
And if anybody wants to get rid of some skulls or some antlers or
if you need anything, like, I've had people literally come down for trips, you know, to visit family in Sydney, and they'll ask me, will you know, sort this out for me, clear this for me, I've, you know, got this or this. And, you know, I do have people that will specifically travel to come and, you know, have me preserve insects or, you know, do a Euro mount for them or whatever. And that's, I love that. I really love that, because it makes me feel like I'm doing something right. And I don't know, it's just beautiful seeing where they end up. You know, everyone, you know, has a beautiful space on their wall in their home, just in their life for these pieces. And I love that, you know, it's awesome.
Exactly. Well, thank you for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark. I love you, mate.
This has been in the works for a bit now, but we got you
I know. And what are we now?
Lucky
This is
13.
Lucky 13?
Lucky 13.
Fuck yeah. Awesome. I love
lucky
it.
Number. But yeah, thank you very much for coming on. It was
thank you for having me.
Good
I
chat.
appreciate you.
And
no worries.
We'll go out with a song, something a bit different from one of my mates.
I'm singing, guys. Are you ready?
I'll turn the mics off so you don't have to go through that.
Yeah, turn them off. Don't put them through that.
But this is a song by Bill Dotson. Put some Jones in it. So Let's listen to that as we fade out.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for listening.
Thanks, Zach.
Yes, sir. Y'all ain't ready for this one. Sitting outside in my four-wheel drive, she was looking way too fine. Wearing cowboy boots, she had them cut off dukes and said, baby, let's take a ride. Put her boots on my dash and said, play some cash. Baby, that's fine with me. I like Hank and Stratton, yeah, they all sound great, but you gotta turn it up for me. And put some Jones in it, turn it up loud. Dixie proud, all the way from the south. Put some Jones in it, turn it on up. Moonshine filling up my Dixie cup. Put some Jones in it, turn it up loud. Dixie proud, all the way from the south. Put some Jones in it, turn it on up. Moonshine filling up my Dixie cup. And come on, yeah. Rocking and rolling and out of control. I could tell she was already mine. It was getting kind of late on our very first date. We were having a real good time. She was singing along to the George Shaw song as a man told her to county line. She said, forget about the time, let's drink some more shine and turn it on up past 9 and put some Jones in it, turn it up loud. Dixie proud, all the way from the south. Some Jones, turn it on up. Moonshine filling up my Dixie cup and put some Jones in it, turn it up loud. Dixie proud, all the way and put some Jones in it, turn it on up. Moonshine filling up my Dixie cup, but come on.